And that is, I am cooking a coconut pie in the oven right now, and it's going to be done in a few minutes. So if you see me disappear while Jodine is speaking, it's only because I'm taking it out of the oven. But anyways, welcome. Thank you everyone for joining us tonight. We have Jodine joining us. She is with Trafalgar Tours as well as Cost Saver. That's the other side of it. And she's going to be showing us a number of tours that they offer in North America with a focus on Canadian tours. If you have any questions as we're going along, please feel free to drop your questions down there in the chat box. Or I think on your phone, you can hit the three dots and type in your question there. We'll also maybe stop halfway and see if there's any questions, or save them for the end. Don't forget your questions if you have some. With that being said, I'm going to let Jodine take it away, and yeah, I'll maybe tune in a little bit, Jodine, and see if there's any questions coming up here. I'll just let you know, but otherwise okay, I'll let you just keep going if there isn't any. So
okay, I can see you. I've minimized everything, so all I can see is you. So give me a wave or something if you need me to stop, and then I can stop. Okay.
Alrighty.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Leanne. Thank you, everyone, for joining in. I understand we have got people from across Canada joining us. So I'm actually here in Calgary. For any of those Northern Alberta people, don't hold that against me, but that's where I am. But we're going to talk about Canada because one of the reasons, well, North America, mainly Canada, because with everything that's going on in this world, as we all know, borders are closed, and it's kind of been discussion amongst the industry as a whole that what we're going to find when people start traveling again is they may be looking first within their own backyard. So they'll stay within their country, mainly because it's easy. There's not going to be as many restrictions going from province to province as much as there is going to from country to country. And then of course that'll open up, and maybe we might go across the border to the US, and then overseas to more international destinations. A lot of that is also based on where the airlines are going. And that's one thing Lee and I were discussing earlier today, was that, you know, as much as we'd all love to be flying somewhere tomorrow, when the borders aren't open and the airlines aren't going there, we're kind of stuck to wherever we can go with that, in that context. So we're going to talk a little bit about Canada. So I know if you have traveled with Trafalgar before, if you've heard of us before, you may know that we're very well known for doing Britain and Europe. That's our go-to. But a lot of people actually don't realize that we do have some great trips as well within Canada and the USA. So let's get my slide going. So this is me. You saw me earlier, but in case you didn't see me now, before I was actually in Ireland here, and they always say that travel brings out the best you. So this is, I don't know if it's the best me, but it's the fun me, not the mum me that my kids think are so boring. So I was blow-carding here on the beaches of Ireland, but I have been in the industry since 1992, and have quite an extensive background with travel. I won't get into it because that's a whole new presentation that we could go on, but I thought I'd just let you see who you're talking to, who you're listening to, and we'll go from there. So again, I mentioned earlier that we're going to be covering North America with a focus more on Canada. We did release our 2021, I thought my years straight, because it's so far away where I'm talking that I can't get my years right. So 2021 and our 2022 North America brochure has been launched. It is, of course, just online right now because we don't have anyone printing it, but that is available for all of the trips. So why travel with Trafalgar? As I mentioned before, I'm with Trafalgar, but Trafalgar itself is part of a larger entity. We are owned by the Travel Corporation, which is a family-run business. They have been around now for 100 years. In fact, we were supposed to be going to London this year to celebrate Travel Corporation's 100th year anniversary, but of course that's kind of been pushed away, and now we won't be going until next year, celebrating our 101st anniversary. So as you can see, the Travel Corporation, it's family owned, family run. We own these businesses that you see here. So, well, not we, but the travel corporation, the Tolman family. So some of the brands that you might be familiar with when you're looking on the screen, of course, hopefully would be Trafalgar, and then our Cost Saver brand, and then Luxury Gold, Insight Vacations, Kentucky, maybe you've been on a Uniworld cruise, You by Uniworld, Brendan Vacations, they do all of our Ireland product. We have the Red Carnation Hotel, which are 5-star luxury hotels. AAT Kings, they look after the South Pacific, so Australia, New Zealand. And then we also have where it says DA, that's our Destination America. So Destination America are the ones that put together all of our itineraries in Canada and the USA. So the nice thing you can be assured is that when you are traveling with us, we have people all over the world to be looking after your well-being. And also we have received many, many different awards. So we now travel to all 7 continents with the Trafalgar brand. We've been around ourselves. The Trafalgar brand itself has been around for 74 years. We are the most rewarded or awarded company tour operator in the world. And that is with accolades either by our travelers, being yourselves, or travel agents. And as much as I love our consumers, the fact that our travel agents vote us #1 in many categories is even more so important because they're the ones that recommend our trips to you. And they have lots of different places, people that they can recommend. So the fact that they do recommend us as their #1 tour operator is very important to us. Lots of different trip itineraries, thousands of different experiences, and we've had over 5 million guests travel with Trafalgar. Oh, there's that. Which way am I going? Going the wrong way. There we go. So another one of our companies that you may have seen on that slide is our Tread Right Foundation. This is our not-for-profit company that we have as well. There's 3 main core areas of making travel matter of the Tread Right Foundation, and that is caring for the planet, preserving places and wildlife, and helping people. And when you travel with Trafalgar, you're almost always going to touch on at least one of those pillars when you're on a trip with us, whether you know it or not. And with everything that's been going on in this world with COVID, I know that there have been some changes that we want to embrace. We want to embrace the fact that that the wildlife is coming back out again. We want to embrace the fact that there's not as much pollution. And so we want to continue that process. And hopefully we can do that with the Tread Right Foundation. So I'll kind of talk a little bit about some of those things that on these trips that they're going back to this particular screen when it comes to preserving places and wildlife, helping the people, and of course, caring for the planet. So with that being said, we are also very concerned, of course, about your health and well-being now. So all of our travel directors, so those are what we call our tour guides, we call them travel directors. They are being completely trained in health and hygiene. They're being trained in the destinations that they travel to. What are the protocols and the restrictions when we do open up? We have 24/7 support. So our travel directors have someone that they can go to and ask, hey, can we do this in Ireland? Can we do this in New Brunswick? Are we allowed to do this when it comes to COVID? And they have the support there. Stringent on-road protocols would be our coach drivers. So our coach drivers are responsible for the coach itself, the cleanliness of it. So they are going through a regimental cleaning of the coaches every day, where they'll be cleaning down the air vents, the armrests, the seats, the washrooms, anything that is touched by the human beings will be disinfected every day. We'll also have masks, gloves, antibacterial wipe, all of those necessities on the coach as well. Trusted partners, that would be the people that we're dealing with, the hotels that we're staying at. Are they also making sure that they are adhering to the proper health hygiene protocols? Physical distancing, do we have to limit the amount of guests that we have on our coach in order to adhere to physical distancing? If so, in that particular area or country, if so, then it will apply to the entire trip. Are we going to places that are also adhering to physical distancing, such as certain attractions? When we go, for instance, on the Niagara Falls boat, are they going to make sure that they're adhering to those physical distancing numbers as well? So we want to make sure that we are always in the know, because the world is big, as we know, and even from province to province, our policies differ when it comes to COVID. So we want to make sure that we know the best safety measures for you as our clients, no matter where you may be, whether you're in Calgary, whether you go to Newfoundland and Labrador, whether you're in the States, whether you go with us to Europe. We want to make sure that we have your best interests and your safety at heart. So know that when you travel with us, that we will be looking after you when it comes to the health and hygiene, as well as everything else. So with Trafalgar, when you travel with Trafalgar, we have what we call three main pillars of traveling with us. Now, I don't know how many of you have actually traveled with us before, or if you were booked with us or what, but if you've been with us in the last 10 years, you're probably familiar with a lot of these connections that I have on the screen here. So when you travel, normally I would ask people in a general, in a room, I'd say, how many of you travel for what reason? So, a lot of the times people say they want to connect with the destination. They want to learn more about that area. And that's the great thing about touring, is that when you do go on a Trafalgar tour or any type of tour, that is when you are really learning about the destination. You look at going on a cruise. When you go on a cruise, you have to enjoy being on a ship, because everything you do is on the cruise, whether it be the dinner, the casino, whatever, the entertainment. But when you go on a coach tour, you're actually going to a destination and you're getting a history about it. You have specialists and guides that are telling you the stories about everything that you're seeing. I always say, especially with Canada, absolutely. Could you say to me tomorrow, I'm just going to go drive to Vancouver? Sure, you could. And that's if you're just going there as transportation. But if you want to go across Canada and learn about Canada, the best way to do it is in a guided coach tour or guided travel, because all those placards that you're driving, and you stop along all those viewpoints that we've seen over and over when you're driving, and you see the placard, people are taking pictures of the placard, and they're taking pictures of what they're seeing. It's just reading. But when you actually have a travel director or a local specialist with you, they are bringing that particular placard to life. They are telling you the history behind it. They're telling you the stories. They're bringing the emotion into everything that you see. And so that is a connection that we really want you to have. And with that, we have our Be My Guest experiences, which are our Connect with Locals, where we will bring you to a local business. Most of them are always very sustainable. They're in line with our Tread Right thinking, where you might be invited in to have lunch with them. They'll cook you a homemade meal, and you'll get to hear the stories about that particular business or farm. We have our Dive into Culture experiences, which are kind of similar. They're not as immersive, but they would be something like going to, you'll see some examples. I'll tell you some examples of what a Dive into Culture experience is. More of a cultural type of experience. And again, these are things that you might not do if you were on your own. Hidden gems, we all have our own hidden gem. When people come to Calgary, visitors, I'll take them to my favorite place to get my favorite dim sum or my favorite ice cream. That's what a hidden gem is, and that's what our local specialists and our travel directors will share. We have our Stays with Stories. Now, these are your accommodation. Not all of our accommodation are Stays with Stories, but a Stays with Story type of accommodation would be one where the hotel itself has a history. It has a story to tell. Or where you're staying, when you go home, you will be telling your friends and family all about this great hotel you stayed in because of its location, because of what you saw when you were there. That's what a Stays with Story is. And then a Make a Difference would be something to do with our Tread Right Foundation, where we're giving back to the community. So those are our connections. And of course, we want to make sure it's easy for you. So all of our trips include the coaches, of course. I mentioned about the hygiene on the coach, but we do have air conditioning on board, a washroom on board, electricity, Wi-Fi. So you're very, very comfortable. And I personally, when I hit a moving vehicle, I am doing the whole head bobbing thing, because I'm like a little baby. As soon as you put me in a moving vehicle, my head starts bobbing and I am out. So it's kind of nice that they're comfortable. I can just fall asleep in them, but then I miss all the great scenery, so I do try to stay up every so often. Hand-selected accommodation. So we do try to make sure that our accommodation meet the area that they're in. Also, all the Trafalgar accommodations are 4 to 5 star centrally located properties. We include porterage, so you never have to worry about lifting your luggage. Well, okay, I'll lie. I'm lying. The first day when you get there, you may have to lift your luggage. And the last day when you leave, you may have to lift your bags. When I went on our trip, we get to each destination, we get off the travel director hands us our keys, we go up to our room, then the luggage gets brought up to our room. And then in the mornings, we leave our luggage out. By the time we're finished breakfast, everything's on board the coach. We don't have to do anything. So the last day, I remember standing there waiting for someone to bring my bags. And I'm waiting and waiting. I'm like, oh, that's right. I have to bring it up myself. So that wasn't fun. But throughout the trip, your bags are looked after. And then, of course, many meals. So in most cases, with Trafalgar, we do include breakfast daily. And then the rest of the meals, we may be looking at 25 to 50%. And part of the reason is lunches, the last thing you want to do as a traveler is we stop, say in Banff, and then we say, okay, go enjoy, but in an hour come back because we're going to have lunch. We want you to enjoy the time that you have in those particular areas. Another reason, mainly when it comes to dinners, is that maybe you want to try a different type of cuisine. Maybe the set meal was Italian and you wanted to go for a steak dinner when you were in Calgary, or you wanted to go for a seafood dinner when you were in Vancouver and we're taking you for chicken. So we want to make sure that you get to experience the cuisine, the local cuisine, and maybe you want to just have a nice romantic dinner with the person you've traveled with or the friends that you've brought. So we do try to include as many meals as possible without making it seem as though you're having to dine again with the group or where we tell you to dine. And then, of course, I mentioned our travel directors and our local specialists. So I always like to talk about this, and especially this person. So this lady, this lovely lady, her name is Dee Morgan. She's actually in Ireland with me there. She is our local specialist in Ireland. Now, whether she's in Ireland or whether you have a local specialist in Canada, the idea behind a local specialist is the same. And I mentioned it before, how they help to bring the destination to life. Our travel directors and our local specialists are truly passionate people about travel. And I always say, when you talk to somebody or you meet someone that is passionate about what they do, it exudes. And you just want to listen to everything they have to say. It gets you excited. You want to learn more. And it really shows that they love what they do. And that's what our travel directors and local specialists do. Just a story about Dee here. Just to kind of show you how she brings the emotion to a destination. She was born in Belfast. She and I are actually the exact same age. We have 2 days difference in our ages. So we both grew up in the 70s. She grew up during the Troubles of Ireland. I grew up in just the normal 70s in Canada, where I had dance lessons, I had piano lessons, you name it. I was putting every single lesson, come home whenever, just not too late. Whereas Dee, on the other hand, she had to come home by a curfew because there were curfews in line there. If she heard the sirens go off, that was time to get home as fast as you possibly could. They'd be eating dinner and they'd hear a bomb go off. Her parents would shove her underneath the table so that the glass from the windows didn't break and she would get cut by the shards of glass. She knew family members that died. She had friends that died. But then she also saw the turn of Belfast and how wonderful Belfast is now. So she brings those stories to life. She brings Belfast to life for you. And that's what our local specialists and travel directors do. Our travel directors are with you 24/7. No request is too large or too small for them. They truly know the destination that they're going to inside and out. Our local specialists are someone that's local to that particular area. So they're going to join the group for maybe a couple hours and then they are gone. And then they do their own, then you go somewhere else and you might get another local specialist. So those are the things that hopefully make your trip easy. And then of course we want to make sure that you have joy. When you travel with us, bringing you lasting memories. This is my 102-year-old grandma. She wasn't 102 there, she was about 100 there. But you know, we took her to some of these iconic sites in Banff. And so lasting memories, new friendships, and some of the greatest stories that you'll ever tell. So what's new for us? What's going on with Trafalgar? We do have 2 new trips in our Canadian portion. That's only 2 new trips total in the entire brochure for the USA Canada brochure, and both of those trips are in Canada. So if this is on your bucket list, Canada's Northern Lights, check us out. It's an 8-day trip. It's just the one country. You can see the 19 meals included. And this is going up to Churchill. So you will fly into Winnipeg, and then we include the charter flight. It's a 5-hour flight from Winnipeg to Churchill. And then we bring you all over the place up there. So first, when you're in Winnipeg, you're going to go to the Manitoba Museum. And here we have one of our dive into culture experiences with a local specialist as well. So what you're going to do is, I'm going to kind of read it. You can read it along with me. Dive into culture with a local specialist who will reveal the history of Manitoba's fur trade and the way of life of the Inuit, who of course are the Aboriginal people of the Canadian Arctic. So that will be one of the things you'll be doing on day 2 before you head up to Churchill. And then you'll be in Churchill for 3 days, where one of the experiences getting a local specialist. They will join, and they're going to help you teach you how to take the perfect photo of the Northern Lights. So I don't know how many photos I have when I've seen the Northern Lights, and it just looks like a blur of lights. Nothing special about it. I have to explain the whole picture to people. So that's just one of the experiences you'll have with a local specialist. We'll also be going on the tundra buggies to see the wildlife up there. So of course, we'll be seeing some polar bears. You're going to be getting to see some iconic sites and attractions on these tundra buggies, the tundra itself, plus all the varieties of animals that you will see up in Churchill will also be amazing. And that will be on days 4 and 5. And then of course, one of the local specialists dive into culture experiences, we're going to go dog sledding. We're going to take you dog sledding. You're going to learn first about the traditional and modern Métis lifestyle, as well as their history of dog sledding. And then we'll let the dogs take you out on the sled, and you can say mush, mush, mush the entire time that you're on the sled. So that is on day 5. Also that evening, we're going to take you to Dan's Diner. So this is a memorable meal. Dan's Diner is actually part of the Tundra Buggies. It's actually a buggy that has been redone and decorated to be a restaurant. And here you'll actually find Chef Jared. He's going to cook up some regional cuisine for you. You might get some normal food. So don't worry if you're not into any gamey type of things, but there will be some game, but there's also going to be some chicken and vegetables as well. But you'll have a wonderful dinner here in Dan's Diner. And look at the view. I mean, you're going to be sitting in these windows, and you're going to see polar bears going by or coming up to the window. So truly a spectacular vision for dinner on day 5. And then of course on day 6, we're going to lace on some snowshoes. We're going to teach you, the local specialist is going to teach you how to snowshoe through some landscapes there, of course, around Hudson Bay. And then day 7, you're going to learn about the Inuit indigenous people in a dive into culture experience going to the Itsanetak Museum, again, up in Churchill. And then you're gone. You're going back to Winnipeg, and off you go back home. So that is our Northern Lights trip. The other new trip we have is polar bears in Manitoba. So if you just want to worry about seeing the polar bears, this is another great opportunity. It's just a quick 6-day trip, so it's just a week long, lots of different meals included. You're going to start it at the Itsanetak Museum. So same idea, you're going to learn about the indigenous people. Then we're going to take you to the Parks Canada Visitor Center, and you're going to have a local specialist there to just really explain the whole history behind Churchill, what it's all about up there. And then day 3, you're going to get to go dog sledding again. So same idea as the other trip, where they'll teach you all about the ins and outs of dog sledding, and then you'll get onto those sleds. Then we take you to your hotel for the 2 nights, which is at the Tundra Buggy Lodge. So you stay in those buggies. They have some buggies that have been converted into accommodation. And again, you're sleeping right in the wilderness, right with the polar bears. I don't know if I want to hear what they sound like at night. I don't know if that would be interesting, but it would be very interesting actually. So you really will have the perfect base from which to view and photograph the polar bears by day. And then of course, you're going to have some beautiful sightings of the Northern Lights, because there's no other light around to detract from the sights of the Northern Lights. So you'll be there for 2 nights at the Tundra Buggy Lodge. And that would be one of our stays with stories that I'd mentioned. So that one doesn't have a history, but the stories that you're going to tell when you go home about seeing all the various polar bear, that is your stay with story. Then of course, we're going to go on the Tundra Buggies as well. Again, you're going to get to do a safari out there where you're going to see a whole bunch of other animals just besides the polar bears. I think this picture is fantastic. I just love that. He's like, hello, how you doing? What you doing? And they're just taking their photos with him. And then here's your full day safari. So you're going to get 2 full day safaris on this trip. going through Churchill's wildlife management area. So again, you're going to see moose. You may see water animals as well. You're going to see all the different types of tundra animals on those 2 days there. And then back in Churchill, you'll go get a Make a Difference experience. So Make a Difference, again, is part of our Tread Right. We're giving back to the community. And so you're going to get a presentation with a local specialist from Polar Bears International. You'll become an ambassador for change to protect these animals. And that is all in line with our Tread Right Foundation. So that is kind of, those are our 2 new trips. So really wonderful. I know a lot of people have the polar bears on their bucket list. So check out those trips. The polar bear one just runs in October, and the Northern Lights one runs a few more months longer than that. So I'm not sure if they'll have it again later on, but I mean, it would be bitter, bitter cold if you went anytime after October. We'll probably be bringing it back in the spring, but because we didn't implement any trips this summer, it just starts in October for us. So now we want to discover the rest of Canada. So these are all the trips that we've had for the last couple of years. So we want you to discover your own backyard. I'm going to not go through all of the trips because we'll be here forever, but I just want to mention a couple of them. Then I will go through some of the more exciting ones that kind of include some of the things that some of these trips that I'm showing you right now. So we have the Canada's Rockies. It's a 7-day trip. 10 meals. You're going to go mainly within Alberta. So you start in Calgary, you'll go to Lake Louise, up to Jasper, back down to Banff, and then you'll end back in Calgary. So it's really for those that want to experience the Alberta side of the Canadian Rockies. The next one we have is Spectacular Canadian Rockies. So this one does go a little bit further into BC. It's a 9-day trip. You actually will start in Vancouver. You're going to make your way up over to Victoria for a couple days, then to Kamloops, and then over to Jasper, down to Banff, and then you'll end in Calgary. So those are, again, you can kind of get the idea of where you're going to see. Now, the ones I'm going to actually go through here would be the Secrets of Rockies and Glacier National Park. So this one is a 10-day trip. We call it a regional explorer because we are hitting more than one country. So we are going Canada and the US because of course we will have to take you down into Montana. First stop we're going to go with a dive into culture experience with a local specialist at the UNESCO listed Head Smashed in Buffalo Jumps, just 45 minutes from me here, where the local specialist will explain the history of Head Smashed in Buffalo Jump and why the buffalo were driven off the cliff so many centuries ago. So you're gonna see that. And then down to Waterton National Park where you'll spend 1 night there. Of course, some iconic sites of Waterton Lakes itself, known for its chain of lakes, including the upper and the middle Waterton Lakes. And of course, you've got the beautiful Rockies surrounding these beautiful lakes. Then you're gonna go again, across the border to Glacier National Park, and you get to actually go on these 1930s, they've been refurbished, but red jammers, where you'll go up to the Cirque of St. Mary Valley along the Going to the Sun Road, and then you're going to stop in the Continental Divide over the Logan Pass. So you'll get a full sightseeing tour on the red jammer here, which you have to go on, of course. And that's Glacier National Park. And then you'll head back up. Actually, you'll get some sightseeing as well. Sorry, I missed my slide. So you'll also see beautiful Glacier National Park as well, besides being on that jammer there. And then you're going to head back up, and this is a Stays with Stories, of course. Could be a ghost story, could be another type of story, but it does have a story. So you'll be spending 2 nights at the Banff Springs Hotel, which of course is known as the Castle in the Rockies. And then while you're in Banff, you'll have some time to do some sightseeing as well as to explore. You can spend the afternoon exploring Banff, going to Bow Falls, but you'll have a sightseeing tour, and then you'll have free time. So one thing I kind of want to explain, and I haven't had a chance to do it yet because I keep talking, but when we say sightseeing, a lot of the sightseeing is when you're with the group. So some people are under the impression that going on a guided coach tour, and I say coach, not bus. So coach, you travel on a coach, you ride a bus to school or to work. So we always say coach. But when you're on a coach tour, some people think that you're always following the herd. You're always following that tour director with the flag in the air, and the whole group just follows behind. The only time you're doing that is when it was an actual sightseeing excursion. So something like this where it says spend the afternoon exploring the rugged beauty of Banff and its postcard viewpoint. That is when you're going to be as a group. But then you have free time to do your own thing. And most times you'll always have time to explore on your own, wherever you may be. And it's a little different for Canada because our stops are kind of quick, and that we do a lot with you during the day. Like over in Europe, we maybe do something in the morning, but then you have the afternoon free. So, and you're traveling a lot. So it's a little bit different, but you do have plenty of time to explore on your own. You're not always traveling behind that flag person, okay? Moraine Lake, you're gonna get to see Moraine Lake on day 6. So don't forget, this is one of the most photographed lakes in the world. It is that beautiful, vivid shade of turquoise. It is a glacier-fed lake, and it really does change throughout the seasons, the color of it. So I don't think this has been photoshopped. You never know, but I doubt it because I've seen pictures myself that I've taken that look like this. So you get to see beautiful Moraine Lake. And then of course we head up north towards Jasper. And on our way to Jasper, we stop at the Athabasca Lake Glacier, where we're gonna get on an ice explorer, and you get to learn all about glaciers and their impact on the environment and how the environment actually affects the glacier as well. Then you'll spend 2 nights up in Jasper. We do have a sightseeing tour where you're going to go on a boat on Maligne Lake. And at that time, you'll also hopefully get a chance to see Spirit Island. I don't know if you know much about Spirit Island, but it's actually just a little inlet. And at times, it turns into an island. So it's very spiritual there for the native people up there. So that is Jasper. And then you'll get actually a memorable meal there. You get to dine at the Maligne Lake Chalet for lunch with a regional meal. And this chalet is not a restaurant. It only opens for special occasions. So it does open for us so that we can have lunch there, and you have beautiful views of Maligne Lake. And then we have a barn social. So you can tell it's the Americans that put this trip together because they think it's just such a cool thing to do, a barn social. And it is a cool thing, especially if you're from Manitoba and Saskatchewan. I myself didn't do a whole lot of barn socials here in Calgary, but I know a lot of people that did. So we do have, we go to the Red Barn up in Cremona, and they teach you all about a barn social. They actually totally do a full reenactment of a barn social. So some of these connect with locals. I do want to say that they could change. Right now, this is who we've got, but depending on like 2022, they may not. It will all depend. We always try to choose Be My Guest companies or connect with local companies that, again, are in line with our Tread Right Foundation. So how this is in line is she actually buys barns and she refurbishes them, and then she holds events in them. So she wants to see history remain in some of these barns that people might want to bulldoze down. She wants to preserve them. So this is what we do with the Barn Social and one of our Be My Guest connections. And then we have optional experiences on this trip that you can also purchase. So we don't include all of the experiences because not everyone doesn't want to go on the gondola. Maybe they don't want to do all these things, but these are options for you to purchase when you are on the trip. So one of them, of course, is the Banff Gondola when they're in Banff, going all the way up to Sulphur Mountain. Another one we can do here is they can do the helicopter tour of the Three Sisters. Or we also have add-ons. So these can be added on to the end of the trip. So here we have a 3-day add-on to see the Stampede. Obviously, this is all for next year's trips. We can add on 2 days for Rocky Mountaineer. So you can go from Banff to Vancouver on the Rocky Mountaineer as well. Sorry, I thought this was a cruise, but this one doesn't. So that is that particular trip. The next one I'm going to go through is the Great Trans-Canadian Journey. So this one, you have to enjoy trains because we will be going on Via Rail. It's a 13-day trip, lots of meals because you're on the train for 3 days. So we're going to start in Toronto, and then we're going to go on a day sightseeing tour to Niagara Falls, where we're going to go on one of the boats and go to the base of Horseshoe Falls here. So you get to see Niagara. Then you're going to hop on Via Rail, and we're going to take you from Toronto to Jasper. I don't have any of the inclusions on that, but you can kind of get the gist of where you're going to be going across Canada on Via Rail. And when you get to Jasper again, we're going to do Maligne Lake, same excursion. You're going to get to go on the lake, see Spirit Island. We're going to include that lunch again for you as well. And then we're also going to go to the Athabasca Glacier as well. So these are all key areas and sites and attractions that we feel are very important to this region of Canada. And then you're going to go to Banff. You're not staying at the Banff Springs on this one. You will be at the Banff Caribou Lodge, which is just a great property, walking distance right into the heart of Banff Avenue, close to lots of different restaurants and shops, spending 2 nights there in Banff. And again, time to sightsee. We have a sightseeing excursion, and then you have free time to explore as well. But what's fun here is when we go to Canmore, we actually have a dive into culture experience, and it's the hockey experience. So don't forget, we don't just cater to Canadians, we cater to Europeans, Australians, the Asian market, and USA, our neighbors next down south. So maybe the USA people have seen hockey, but the South Pacific, not too many. Not too many of our Asian friends have seen it. So we actually take them to a hockey school, and they get to learn the superstitions, they get to learn about hockey, and then they get to actually lace up and go on the ice. So if you don't want to go on, you don't have to. In fact, they say half of the fun is just being in the stands, cheering on these people that you've met along your trip. So it's a really fun experience here. So this is our hockey experience, our dive into culture in Canmore. And then we also have another one where we have our local specialists join us. So it's a retired RCMP Mountie, of course, in full garb, because everyone always has to get a photo with the Mountie. But he'll share with you life in the force, what it was like to be an RCMP officer. So that is one of our local specialists that will come and share some stories with you as well. And then, of course, when we go towards Vancouver, we have to stop in the Okanagan. So we're going to stop at, this one is actually at Grey Monk. So that's who it is currently right now. And you're going to get actually a wine tasting. We'll have dinner there for you. You'll get to meet the owners of Grey Monk, and they'll share stories about their vineyard with you. So a beautiful, beautiful stop for dinner, and really a wonderful experience. Sure, you can go to a winery when you're in the Okanagan, but you won't get to have dinner with the owners of the winery and to hear more intimate stories, storytelling with the owners. Then, of course, when you're in Vancouver, you've got some time to explore. So this is my family, not all of them. Well, my kids are in there. And we have friends. So you can hop on a bike, ride around Stanley Park, and I don't do anything physical. So if I can do it, make sure you're with someone physical though, and get on the tandem bike so that all you have to do is sit on the back and just pretend you're pedaling while the person ahead of you is doing all the pedaling. So you can hop on a bike, ride around Stanley Park, go to English Bay, go to Granville Island, just, there's just so many things to do and see in Vancouver. Go down to English Bay here, see the statues there, and you'll also get a sightseeing tour as well, where they'll go to some of those iconic areas like Gastown, Stanley Park as well, but then you'll have the afternoon to explore on your own. And then, of course, we have some hidden gems. So a hidden gem, like I mentioned, is something that you always, that you know of that maybe not everyone knows about. So this is my hidden gem whenever I go to Vancouver. I used to live there, and there's the Richmond Night Market. So I always make sure I go to the Richmond Night Market because I want to get some Asian food. I also want some cheap phone covers because they sell those for cheap, and lots of socks. That's what you get there. Socks, phone covers, phone chargers, and then they have tons of rows of street market food. So those, what I'm eating there, those are squid tentacles. Maybe not for everyone, but I enjoyed them. The only thing is it is only on the weekends, and it only runs from May to October if you are there on the weekends. I have so many hidden gems, but they all relate to food. So I only wanted to show this one, and I'm only going to really talk about a couple hidden gems that are food related, but for some reason, all my hidden gems are about food. And then, of course, you'll get to see the Capilano Suspension Bridge, and you'll actually have dinner at the Capilano Suspension Bridge. So this is one of those things where, like I said, travel brings out the best in you. I still don't know if I would do this one. It's a little too scary for me, but you never know. Get me out there and I might do it. So that is your trip. That is the Trans-Canada journey. And then here are just some of the, oh, I see a typo I made and I gotta fix that. Here's just some of the optional experiences that you can purchase. So we have the Niagara Falls helicopter flight seeing trip. Of course, you can do the Banff Gondola as well. They have the Jasper float trip where you can go down the Athabasca River. It's a very calm trip. You're not going through the rapids or anything. And if anything, they're very mild rapids. So you don't have to worry about your fear of not being able to swim or drowning, because it's it's for all ages, this Jasper float trip. And then this one you can do an Alaska cruise add-on. So once you get to Vancouver, we can do an Inside Passage add-on for you. And it's a 7-day cruise as well. The next trip is our iconic Rockies and Western Canada. So you're going to see a little bit of repetitive stuff happening here when it comes to the Banff Jasper area, but here is the iconic Rockies. So it's a 13-day trip. You're going to be going, of course, between Alberta and British Columbia. You're going to start in Vancouver, do some sightseeing. This is a sightseeing tour that we're going to go through Chinatown and Gastown, and then we're going to board a ferry to take you to Vancouver Island. As soon as we get to Vancouver Island, we're going to explore into the dive into culture experience, where you're going to go to a local cider farm and cider house. It's the Sea Cider Farm and Cider House. You'll get to do some local cider tasting. It's a family-run business before you continue down the coast to Victoria. Then, of course, you'll have 2 days in Victoria to explore. I just love Victoria. It's such a walking-friendly city to go to. And the food is great, the views are great, the weather is great. Even if it's raining, just bring an umbrella. But you'll have 2 days in Victoria. And then we have a Connect with Local experience where we're going to take you to the Songhees Cultural Center. And you get to have a meal there. You get to actually go into the kitchen, speak to the kitchen staff as to what they're cooking. They're going to make some bannock, and you really get to immerse yourself in the Indigenous culture there. And then we're going to head up to Whistler. So on the way, we're going to stop on the Sea to Sky gondola, where you can hop on the gondola as well and admire some of the wonderful views. And of course, that Sea to Sky highway is spectacular as well. I mean, I think every time I've driven that, I've always seen a bear or two and lots of wildlife along the way. Then you'll spend 2 nights in Whistler. We will get some sightseeing as well, but you'll have time to explore Whistler Village as well, see some of they're like Calgary, where they have to hold on to all their Olympic memories as possible. So lots of Olympic memories there as well. And then we'll go, and once we head back down, we're going to go to the Squamish-Lil'wat Cultural Center, where you actually have your choice. So this is new for this trip, where it's called Your Choice Sightseeing. So you'll either have a choice of doing this particular sightseeing opportunity, which we're going to learn about the First Nations at the Squamish-Lil'wat Cultural Center, or you could go to the Audain Art Museum. So this is a really funky art museum here. So it depends on your choice of what you want to do, but this would be your option. You have one or two choices there, one of 2 choices. Then we're going to go to Kamloops. So Kamloops, really, is there a lot to do in Kamloops? I know it's the sports capital of the world, sports tournament. I've been to too many athletic tournaments there, because it is the tournament capital of the world, they say, but it kind of is more of a stop. We don't want you on the coaches for too long, so we always do schedule some stops along the way. So we did include a stop in Kamloops. We've moved it to Sun Peaks. Before, it used to be right in Kamloops, which so now you actually get to go to Sun Peaks, which is very cute. It's like a mini version of Whistler. And then, of course, you're going to go to Banff again. So again, you have the sightseeing tour with free time to explore, 2 nights here in Banff. We again have the RCMP experience with the local specialist. And then we're going to head up to Jasper. So what are we going to do on the way to Jasper? We're going to stop at the Athabasca Glacier with the Ice Explorer. Again, 2 nights up in Jasper, getting to go on Maligne Lake. But you're also going to go to Mount Robson on this trip. So, of course, this is UNESCO listed Mount Robson. It is the highest peak of the Canadian Rockies. So we will stop and see Mount Robson here as well. And then you're going to end again at the Capilano Suspension Bridge there. Not for dinner, just for it. So we do include the admission into the Capilano Suspension Bridge, of course. And then here's some of your optionals again. So the same ones, the Banff Gondola. Here you can do the peak to peak when you're up at Whistler Blackcomb. I don't know if you're familiar with this one, but this one actually is in the Guinness Book of World Record for the longest peak to peak gondola. It's over just under 1,500 feet above the valley floor. So that kind of scares me, just the fact that it's suspended from peak to peak, almost 1,500 feet above the valley floor. I don't know if I like that. Can you tell I don't like heights too much? So that is the peak to peak experience that you can also go. And then, of course, we have the add-on. So we've got the Calgary Stampede add-on for 3 days, the Rocky Mountaineer from Jasper to Vancouver on this one. So what you'll do is it's it's your return back. So instead of going on the coach from Jasper to Vancouver, you're going to go on the Rocky Mountaineer instead. And that's where you'll say goodbye to all your friends there. And then, of course, we can add on the Alaska cruise to this one as well. Now heading east, we've got the best of Eastern Canada. So I was telling Leah earlier, we were kind of saying, well, where do I want to focus? Do I want to focus on Eastern Canada? And I kind of mentioned to her that actually I do have quite a few people from Calgary or Alberta that have purchased these Rocky trips, not Rocky as in a Rocky, but the Rocky Mountains trips, because friends come over from other countries, and a great way for them to share their country with them is to go on one of these trips where they're going to get all the storytelling and all the history. They don't have to worry about driving. They don't have to worry about parking or getting lost or booking hotels. So it, you know, even though you might be in Alberta and you've got friends coming over to visit, maybe you might want to look at this as an option. Anyway, so now we have the best of Eastern Canada. This one is a 9-day trip, and you're going to be going in throughout Ontario and Quebec. 2 nights in Toronto. We do stay right here at the Sheraton, so you're right downtown. So that kind of gives you an idea of the hotel accommodation. So you will have some time in Toronto to explore. We do have a hockey experience there. They're not dressed like this. It's a brand new experience for us. So I don't have any images of the experience out east, but they're going to be doing the same thing that they would do here in Canmore. And then of course, they're going to go to Niagara Falls on day 2. Again, you'll go on board the boat and see the base of Horseshoe Falls. Then, what I love about doing these presentations is I actually learn things myself. Being an Albertan, I don't really worry too much about what happens out east. I've been, to Quebec once. I've been to Ottawa a couple of times and the Maritimes, but I'm not there for very long. So doing this, I'm thinking, what are the 1,000 islands? And now I see it. And the images that I found on the 1,000 islands is just amazing. Like all these beautiful kind of like castle looking homes on all these little islands throughout. It's just so cool. So on day 3, you actually will go on a sunset dinner cruise throughout the 1,000 islands and get to see all of these spectacular, some of them are abandoned, but castles and villas. And yeah, so that's one of the experience that you're going to get. You'll also be going to Ottawa. You'll spend 1 night in Ottawa with really pretty much free time to do your own thing in Ottawa. So hopefully you are there to catch the light show on the Parliament building, because it is phenomenal. If you've never seen it before, it's really quite spectacular. And then here's another hidden gem. So you have to have a beaver tail. Of course, you can get them pretty much anywhere now, but just so you know, Ottawa is the home of the beaver tail. So their first beaver tail shop was actually at the Byward Market, which they still have that shop there now. But if you wanted to see the home of the beaver tail, you can go to Ottawa and get one of those. And then, of course, we're going to go to Quebec City, which is a UNESCO listed city. Again, it's the only walled city in Canada, even North America, I believe. So you'll spend 2 days in Quebec City with a sightseeing tour. And then, of course, you have the afternoon at leisure for yourself. And then when we're in Quebec, we're going to go to the Canadian Museum of History, where we will have a local specialist join us, and they're going to again share the Indigenous village and outline the diversity of the Indigenous culture in Canada. And then this is something that's very special to the Treadwright Foundation. So it's the Manitoba Mukluk Storybook Project. So we're going to learn, you're going to hear about this. It is again part of our Make a Difference. And you're going to really learn about the actual project, which aims to revive the traditional arts by creating partnerships with elders and artisans. And what they do here is they actually sell these Manitoba mukluks at specific shoe stores. I think it's the Bata shoe store. But all of the earnings go towards Manitoba mukluks, which helps the Indigenous people as well. So again, this is one of those things that I said you'll do that you won't even know, and it's part of our Treadwright Foundation. And then we have to, if we're in Quebec, we have to go to a cabane à sucre, which is, of course, a sugar shack. And you're going to actually have lunch at the sugar shack there as well. So a true Quebec experience. And then when we're in the Eastern Townships, we're going to go to a Connect with Local experience, which is at the Domaine Ives Hill. And this is a black currant farm. And what you'll get to do at the end of it, you'll get to taste all the different black currants, and then you actually get to create your own tea mixture with the various black currants. So it's really a hands-on experience. But again, one of those things that you wouldn't be able to get to do on your own. And that's why we love these connect with local experiences. Because sure, you may be able to go to Domain Ives Hill, but will you get to, again, get the stories that they're going to share with you? Will you get to make your own tea? Most likely not. So these are the types of things that a Connect with Locals Be My Guest experience are all about. Then we'll be going to Quebec for 2 nights. And again, you will have time to explore this beautiful city of Quebec. And one of the sightseeing highlights, of course, is seeing the Notre Dame Basilica, which is located in Montreal. Spectacular view there. I know I think I've got some people from Quebec on the phone, so you might be aware of it anyways, but this is part of the sightseeing that we're going to take you on, seeing the old port area as well. And then we do, this is one of our optional experiences that you can do. So you could go to Ile d'Orleans and Montmorency Falls, which is actually, they say these are taller than the Niagara Falls. I'm not sure. That's what I read. So someone could correct me, but that's what I read. So that's one of the optional experiences. Again, we can do a flight seeing helicopter experience over Niagara Falls. And then you can also do this add-on. So it's a Canada and New England cruise, Montreal to Boston, 8 days. It is with Holland America as well as our Alaska trips, but another way just to prolong it and just to see a little bit more of East Coast Canada and the US. Now we have the Enchanting Maritimes. So this one is going to everything but Newfoundland, Labrador, because we have a separate trip for that. So you can always add the two together if you'd like. I do have some agents that have sold it that way to their clients, so they can get the full maritime experience. So the first off, when you go to Halifax, you're going to be staying actually at a Stays with Stories. So this is at the Lord Nelson Hotel. It's actually been it's been around for 85 years, and it overlooks the public garden, so spectacular views from it. But really an old traditional hotel for 2 nights, the Lord Nelson. And then some of your sightseeing highlights, of course, you're going to go to the Maritime Museum. They're going to take you up to the Halifax Citadel here, which are the forts there. And the local specialist will explain all about the Citadel on the hill to you. Then we're going to go down to Baddock for 2 nights. You will actually get to join in some Celtic celebrations with some foot stomping, some singing, some dancing, with a dive into culture experience there as well. Then we go to Cape Breton and on the Cabot Trail. So some spectacular views along this trail, winding through Cape Breton Highlands National Park. You know, I always say when I went to Europe, I would say, oh, Europe has got such beautiful scenery. It's got such history. We may not have the history that Europe has, but some of the scenery that we have in Canada truly is spectacular. And then in Charlottetown, we'll actually stay at another Stays with Stories. So you actually get 2 Stays with Stories on this trip, and you'll stay at the Rod Charlottetown, which was built in 1931. And it's a landmark hotel there in Charlottetown. For our Connect with Locals Be My Guest experience, you're actually going to go to the Shaw's Hotel. So this one is a family-run hotel. It's been in the Shaw family for 4 generations. And it is one of the oldest tourist attractions actually in Brackley Bay on PEI. So you'll get to hear the stories about the hotel itself. Then, of course, we have to go to Shediac Bay. So the home of the lobster. Everything is lobster there. So you will get a close look at the Acadian culture. You'll get to go to a lobster fishery with a local specialist. Then, of course, we're going to have lobster. So if you love lobster, you have to go to Shediac Bay. And then we're going to go see Hopewell Rocks. So kind of like our hoodoos out here, we've got the Hopewell Rocks, which are rock formations caused by tidal erosion. So the local specialist there will explain how the Hopewell Rocks came to be. And then we have a dive into culture experience where you're going to get a tour and a tasting at a local winery. So this one we're going to go to the Petite Riviere Vineyards in Crosstown, Nova Scotia. And you'll get to see how the grapes are grown. You'll get the whole history on the vineyard there. Then, of course, we have to go to Lunenburg. So a local specialist will take you throughout Lunenburg, which is, of course, another UNESCO World Heritage Site. Maybe you might want to go see the all the tall ships there, the Dime. You can see all that as well. So that is the Maritimes, the Enchanting Maritimes trip. Then we get on to the scenic wonders of Newfoundland, Labrador, and Ile St. Pierre. This particular trip has so many experiences and local specialists and dive into cultures. I think there's like 20 slides alone just on those things separate, because we truly feel that this is an area that you want to connect to. There's so many things to see and do in Newfoundland and Labrador, and we don't want to miss anything. So we're going to start in St. John's, Newfoundland. Not St. John, but St. John's. We're going to spend 2 nights here, see the beautiful, colorful city of Newfoundland, of St. John's, and see how it's just so, so pretty there driving down these streets. And of course, we're going to go to the Witless Bay Ecological Reserve. You're going to have a boat tour there, and you can, of course, see puffins, because as you know, there are many, many puffins over there. I got to kiss a puffin, but I didn't get a real puffin. I got a stuffed puffin when I got screeched in. And I think about it now and I think, oh, like I am, in today's world, in today's COVID world, it is the ideal environment for me because I'm a bit of a germaphobe. So the fact that I had to kiss this puffin that I can't even imagine how many people had kissed, it just, I'm sure they don't do that anymore in these pubs with COVID, but hopefully you'll get to see a puffin or maybe a whale, depending on the time of year that you're there. Then we're going to go to Chase Landing or Chappie's Landing. You're going to get to meet the fisherman there and have a Be My Guest experience. He's going to talk about the significance of cod fishing in the area, and snow crab and his family, the generations of fishermen that he has. So this is in Petty Harbor, Newfoundland, on day 2 only. I'm only on day 2. Day 3, we're going to go to St. Pierre. You're going to have a dive into culture experience there, where you'll get to learn all about the narrow streets, the colorful streets, and really learn about the colonial history in St. Pierre. Day 4, we're going to go to Fortune. We're going to have a local specialist join you, where they're going to take you. You're going to be at the Fortune Head Ecological Reserve. And you can kind of read it here. It's home to the global boundary stratotype section and point for the geological time boundary between the Precambrian era and the Cambrian period. So you get to see all that plate tectonics. I love saying that word. I've always loved saying plate tectonics. Don't ask me why, but I say it. It drives my kids nuts. And then, of course, the lighthouse on Cape Bonavista. So this, of course, is one of those iconic sites and attractions built in the mid-19th century. It is one of the few that you can actually still climb to the same seal oil, to see the oil-fueled lights that they had there long ago to warn all those ships. Then off to Trinity on Newfoundland on day 5, where you'll have a local specialist join you for a walking tour. It's not a long tour. I think it's like a half an hour to a 45-minute tour, because it's really not a large area, but it's a nice way to break up the trip. And then we're going to go to Terra Nova National Park. So again, we're going to have another local specialist join us there. And you'll just see all the different inlets, the headlands, and the forests of Terra Nova National Park. Then we have a dive into culture experience. So see, we're only on day 6, and every day is full of some sort of experience. But here we're going to go to the Auk Island Winery, and you're going to actually get to taste some of these. And they're all berry wine. So not your typical wine grapes, lots of berry flavored wines here from Auk Island. So you get to sample some of those on day 6. See, this is when you're glad that you're on a coach, because you're sampling all this wine that you don't want to drive yourself. And then, of course, another dive into culture on day 6, same day, you're going to go to the Isle Wooden Boat Museum and learn all about the history of wooden boats built from a wooden boat builder. So from generations to generations, you get to see how this how these are all handcrafted, and just the history behind creating these masterpieces. Then, of course, on to Gander, Newfoundland, where the local, it's funny, this is not a depiction of Gander, of course, but the local specialist that joins us actually talks about his importance and his impact that he had during the 9/11 disaster. As you might recall, all of those airplanes had no place to go but to Gander, and Gander opened itself up to the world with open arms. And so you're going to hear the stories about that from our local specialist that was heavily involved in this during the 9/11 crisis then. Then we're going to go to Gromorn National Park. I actually did have to Google to make sure I don't say the gross. It is Gromorn National Park on day 10. We're going to have a local specialist join you there. You're going to get to go on different boat tours to explore the fjord there and getting the rich cultural history about the bay. So this is truly a beautiful experience. You almost think you're in Norway here, but you're not. And then, of course, Arches National Park, not to be mistaken for Arches National Park in the US, but this is just, we're going to stop here just for a quick little picture of the natural archway that was caused by tidal erosion again. Now, when you're on our trips, if you were to look at a description, if it says sightseeing, as I mentioned before, you're going to get off the coach, you're going to have someone take you around. We have what we call audio box machines, where it's a headset. So it's got a headset and a speaker, and you can hear the travel director, even if she's like 40 people away from you. So you're not missing anything. So that would be a sightseeing. A visit is the same thing. You're going to get off the coach. You'll have time to visit, maybe take some pictures, walk around some. So you'll have time to visit. A view, time to just take a photo. So you'll get off the coach. You might have a photo. You might be there for maybe 15 minutes. And if it says see, you are going to see it as you drive by on the coach. So that kind of gives you an idea of what we refer to when you do get your hands on an itinerary to look at. And then, of course, we have another dive into culture experience, and this is at the Dark Tickle Company, which is a wild berry farm. So you're going to get to explore their farm. You have a quick little tour, and then it will be followed up by lunch in this cute little cafe there. And then this is really cool. So this is Lands-Eau Meadows. Sorry to my Quebec people on the line. I actually almost failed French. So you'll get to go here on day 10. It's a UNESCO listed Viking settlement. It's one of the most popular UNESCO sites in Canada of the Canadian ones. So it's really quite a unique little settlement here that they've got, and it was just where all the Vikings were. So when they came over, so this is one of the things, and you'll hear all about it from the local specialist. Day 11, you're going to get to go for a memorable meal at the Lightkeepers Cafe, and this is in St. Anthony, Newfoundland. Great views of the Atlantic there. You might get a chance to see some whales or icebergs or some seabirds as well. So a memorable meal here, which we do have some of those. And then we have this dive into culture here, which is at a scallop farm. So you'll learn how to shuck scallops here. I want to go here because I love scallops. That again is another dive into culture. So you can see all the different cultural experiences and the connections that we've got on this Newfoundland Labrador trip. And that is on day 11. And then day 12, you'll have a local specialist join us again for another UNESCO listed site, which is the Red Bay National Historic Site, which was actually a major whaling point on the Atlantic. So all the whales would come here. So you'll get another history tour on Red Bay National. And then this is a very famous lighthouse that you may have seen before in movies or in images, and it's the Point Armor Lighthouse, or more, lighthouse in Newfoundland on day 12. And here what we'll do is we'll tour the lighthouse, and then we actually have a regional dinner right beside the lighthouse. So again, some spectacular views here at Lands-Eau. And then one last Stays with Story, which is at the Glenmill Inn, which is in Newfoundland. It was actually a pulp and paper mill. It's where the executives stayed, and they actually turned it into a hotel in 1924. So that's one way to utilize where people stay and turn it into a business as well. So this is on your last day in Corner Brook, Newfoundland. So those are all of the Canadian trips that I kind of wanted to talk to you about. Hopefully we do take care of everything for you when you are on a Trafalgar trip experience with us, besides some of those meals maybe. But again, that's when we really want you to explore and experience on your own. So right now we do have a 10% savings off of any of our trips in our USA Canada brochure. As long as if you book and pay in full by December 17th, you can get 10% off of any of those trips that I've mentioned, anything really in the brochure. We also have other ways that you can save. So we do accept children on our trips. Ages 5 to 17 are considered children, where you'll get 10% off. We also have shared rooms, which right now we're not doing our shared room. So if you are a single traveler, we normally have a shared room situation where we'll match you with another traveler on the trip of same age, same interest. And this way you only pay the double rate opposed to paying a single supplement. But because of COVID right now, we're not doing that. So we have suspended that for the time being. But we also do have some single rates, some solo rates, and quite often we do have specials on those single supplements. We of course do family trips, so we can do quad rates. We do groups as well. And then if you've traveled with us before, you are also entitled to some discounts depending on how many times you've traveled with us. And as I mentioned before, you might want to do the Maritimes and Newfoundland, so you can do a multi-trip, in which case if you do what we call a back-to-back booking, you will get 2.5% off of the trip as well. And then quickly, I just want to mention Cost Saver. So I know that that Lee had mentioned Cost Saver, I mentioned Cost Saver. Cost Saver is my sister company, and we always like to refer to it also as a travel style. So we have various travel styles. As I'd mentioned, you heard me maybe say it was a country explorer or a regional explorer. We have leisure trips, which are a little bit more slow paced. We have discovery trips, which are very fast paced. You're stopping and seeing one, like that last trip, the Newfoundland Labrador, that is a discovery trip because you're seeing so much in a compacted amount of time. Cost Saver tailored by you. So we give, oh, my internet connection is unstable, so hopefully you're not gonna lose me. But Essentials by Us, tailored by you, which means it's good for those travelers that want the flexibility of independent travel, but they also want the ease of guided travel. So we include all the essentials like your hotel, your coach, not as many meals, main sightseeing, like any of the major areas that you would go to and you want to see those iconic sightseeing areas, attractions, those are always included. But then you have free time to explore on your own. And of course, it's a little bit less expensive because we don't have all those inclusions. We don't have the local specialists joining us. We don't have Be My Guest experiences, the dive into culture experiences. None of those are there. It's really more mode of transportation, some sightseeing, a hotel. And then the hotels themselves are more 3 to 4 star properties, maybe not as centrally located, but sometimes not being centrally located isn't a bad thing. And they are always going to be close to public transportation because that's the type of traveler that goes on a Cost Saver isn't scared of going on public transportation. So just some of the trips we have is landscapes of Eastern Canada and the USA. We've got Canada from east to west. We have the essence of Eastern Canada, and we can add that optional Maritimes cruise on it as well. Panoramic Canadian Rockies. So as you can see, we do hit all the same type of areas. So a lot of the trips that you heard about, we do in the Cost Saver brand, but not as many inclusions. And then I'm going to touch on just a few trips in the South once we all want to go to the US again. You want to explore some of those areas. They do have some fantastic areas and great trips that we've got in our itineraries. This one is the Taste and Sounds of the South. It's Nashville to New Orleans. So you'll start in Nashville for 3 nights. You're going to go down to Memphis for 2 nights, on to Natchez for 1 night, and then New Orleans for 3 nights. It's really great for those foodies. One of our dive into culture experience is called our Cash on Cash experience. And what that means is you're going to go to the Country Music Hall of Fame. And when you're there, you're going to get a private performance by a member of the Cash family. So really unique experience there. And then you're connect with locals. You're actually going to go to Natchez, and you're going to go into a great home there, and you're going to be served a meal by the owner of it, who's actually one of the top 20 women chefs in the US. And then her neighbor is a piano player. So she comes over and she plays the piano and everything. So it's really a nice, nice experience. So that's our Tastes and Sounds of the South. For our families, we have the Wild West Cowboys and Buffaloes. This one, you're going to start in Salt Lake City, go to Jackson. You're going to spend one night at an actual dude ranch. It's a luxury dude ranch. Then you're going to, and it dates back to 1898. And it really is a true, authentic cowboy experience. You're going to get to see the Yellowstone National Park, Sheridan, and then you're going to end in Rapid City. We have our Dive into Culture experience with Stephen Yellowhawk. He is a Native American Indian, and he shares the history and cultures of his tribes all through song and dance. So it's truly a very heartwarming experience with Stephen Yellowhawk. And then, of course, we do have a couple Make a Difference experiences down there as well. If you want to check out the Western Coast, this is a great little trip, actually. It starts in Seattle. You're going to go through Olympic Forest, Astoria in Oregon, down to Newport, and you're going to end in Portland. So we used to have it as the Pacific Northwest. We changed it a little bit. We added Astoria. You're going to get to go to Pike Place Market. You're going to see the beautiful Oregon coast. You'll stop at a vinery. That's mixing winery and vineyard. And when I start talking fast, I start combining words. You'll get to see it at a vineyard there. You get to go see the Starbucks roastery, and then we'll have a local specialist join us in Portland, the Olympic National Forest, Seattle, and Newport. And then, of course, we also have a Stays with Story there too. Autumn colors, who doesn't want to see the changing of the colors? So we have this, it's in Boston, then you're going to go to Manchester, Burlington, North Conway, Bar Harbor, Portsmouth, and you end back in Boston. So you're going to go along the Kank, which is the longer version of it. I can't pronounce it very well, so we call it the Kank. And it's a road through the White Mountain National Forest. So it truly is a spectacular one that you want to be on a coach to, not one you want to be driving. You'll get a city tour in Boston. We'll stop at Ben & Jerry's Ice Cream for a tour there. And then, of course, we have local specialists that join us, a lobster fisherman in Bar Harbor. Wherever there's lobster, I will be there. And Majestic, Alaska. So I know Alaska is on a lot of people's bucket lists, maybe not this year on a cruise with all the restrictions going on there, but we can get you there on land, and you can actually really immerse yourself in Alaska opposed to just seeing Ketchikan and Juneau. So here we're going to start in Anchorage. You're going to go to Denali National Park for 2 nights, into Fairbanks, Valdez, and you'll end back up in Anchorage. We actually do have a cruise option you can do. Really wonderful connections here, lots of different ones. You've got a dog mushing again, so we're really into dog mushing, I guess. And then we have our muskox ox development, as well as the Alaska Wildlife Center, which are part of the Make a Difference. And then one of the Dive into Culture experiences, Panning for Gold with Fairbanks Gold Daughters. So really fun trip here to Alaska. And then if you want to explore some of the beautiful national parks in the USA, I mean, we have some beautiful ones up here, but some of these images are just spectacular. So this one, you'll start in Vegas, go to Bryce Canyon, Salt Lake, 1 night in Jackson, another 2 nights in Yellowstone, 1 night in Billings, where you're going to do the American West Billings at the Buffalo Bill Center of the West there. That's our Connect with Locals. Then you'll go to Rapid City, 1 night in Denver, 2 nights in Mode, where Arches National Park is, and that is beautiful, and Canyonlands National Park. So you get to see those two. You'll be 1 night right in Monument Valley. You actually get a dinner, a regional meal in Monument Valley with Monument Valley in the background. So it's, again, spectacular. And then you have your Dive into Culture experience with Stephen Yellowhawk. East Coast USA and Canada. So starting in New York City, 1 night in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, 2 nights in Niagara, up to Toronto, over to Ottawa, down to Quebec, and then Montreal, and you end in Boston or New York City. You can choose where you want to end it. Again, we have the Be My Guest Niagara Falls Winery, and then we get to taste some Quebecois deli food. And then you have a Stays with Story, which is the Omni Parker House Hotel in Boston. This is actually the hotel where Boston cream pie was created, and the Parker House buns. They were actually created by the chef that they brought in at the Omni Parker House Hotel. So this hotel has a huge history. So that's all of our trips. Again, I mentioned that you can travel in a group. So we do have groups. So travel with your family, your local church group, your local, hobby group, whatever you want. We can, Leah can get some group pricing for you, and you can explore the world together. And then these are our other brochures that we have, just so that you're familiar with who we are. We've got our Europe and Britain. We do have our family brochure, which is just all family geared trips like that Wild Wild West. Asia, we have Latin America, Australia, New Zealand. Our Africa brochure is already out for next year, as is our Europe, Britain, autumn, winter, spring. So these are going in the off season. So this is when you can go to those Christmas markets. It's in the Europe and Britain, autumn, winter, spring brochure. So hopefully we can welcome you on a Trafalgar trip with us, so that you can create your own new lasting memories. And we really want to look after everything for you so that you can experience the good life with Trafalgar.
Thank you, Jodine. There's one question Guylaine was wondering about. She's wondering if the groups are made up of a range of travelers. So when you go with a group, you will be with other international travelers. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So for instance, I was over in England and I did the Devon and Cornwall, which I'll be doing that presentation for you this week as well. And I had people from Australia, we had New Zealand, we had USA, we had Canada, we had Singapore. We even had someone from the UK on the trip. So they're all types of people, all English speaking, because that's why we're based in all those English speaking areas, and our guides are English speaking. And then they have a whole range. We had as young as 8 years old to 88 years old on our trip. Average age for Trafalgar is actually 48. And an average age for a cost saver trip is 35. So they are all over the world. So, and what's great is we call it traveling with like-minded individuals, because people that go on coach trips generally are there because they want to learn more. They want to learn about the area that they're going to. They want to connect. They don't want to sit on a beach and suntan. And that's why, like being from Calgary, sorry, I keep on talking, but, my background was in the all-inclusive hotels and everything, all those sun destinations. So I would go down to Mexico quite often and meet people, and they go, "Where are you from?" And I'd go, "Oh, I hate this question because I never know how to answer it. Not that I don't know where I'm from, but I don't know how to answer it," because I would sit there and I go, "Do I want to say Calgary? Do I want to say Alberta? Or do I want to say Canada?" So being that I'm from Calgary, I say Calgary. I go, "Oh, Calgary," and they give you that blank look. And then you go, "Alberta," and they still give you the blank look. Then you throw in Canada, and they go, "Oh, Canada, I met someone from Toronto. Do you know this person?" Like, they're just so small-minded, right? They have no idea what Canada is all about. So then I go on my trip over to the UK, and I'm sitting there, and I meet some people. I'm at dinner with sitting at a small table of 4, and we're going around the table. "Oh, where are you from? Where are you from?" Well, I'm getting to me. I'm going, "Oh, here I go again." I go, "I'm going to say Calgary." I say Calgary, and all 3 of them, "Oh my gosh, I love Calgary. I love going to the mountains. I lived in Calgary. I traveled through Calgary." So it was really quite remarkable to know that people knew where everywhere was. And as much as you may not believe it, I actually don't like to talk a whole lot. I talk a lot in my job because it's my job and it's something that I'm passionate about. But get me into a social setting, I'm the one that actually sits back and kind of listens to everyone talk, and I'll maybe add a few comments here and there. So making small talk with people is not my forte, or not something that I really go out of my way to do. So I was worried about that particular aspect on the trip, because I knew that I'd have to be making small talk with people. And there was not one awkward moment that I had on these trips, because of that same mentality, you never had to think, what can I talk to them about? Because you could always talk about your travels. You could talk about where you're from, and people were actually interested in it. So it is really nice to have different cultures with you, and different people from different countries with you, because you get to learn about their areas and their cultures, and just meet some new people, which is really wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we have one other question, and that is, are all the tours on a larger coach tour, and what would be the average size?
So our coaches will hold up to 52. Some of
Okay.
our trips are smaller. So like those 2 polar bear ones, those ones are 20. We also have another one of our Rockies ones, which is 35. We
Mhm.
will go with, I believe, our smallest, it depends on the area. So I know that I've been on one that we've only been 29 people. So they can be a larger group. Some people will call that a large group when it is like 40 people or so. But you really, the thing about a larger group is you can always get lost in that large group. You know, in a smaller group, if you don't like somebody in that smaller group, you're with that person, that whole group. If you're in a larger group, you can kind of escape from them. And I always say there's always going to be one person on a group that everyone is like, oh my goodness. So I just say, don't be that one person and you'll be fine.
Yes. For any of us that have ever been on any group trips, that is so true. And it's so nice. I've been on a few where there hasn't been that one person, and it's been so amazing. But
Yeah.
yes. All right. Very good. Well, thank you so much. Tonight has been one of our longer travel talks,
I'm
but
so sorry.
that's okay. I never knew there was so much to see in Canada. So that's great. Also, you are doing our travel talk on Thursday evening with Devon and
Yes.
Cornwall. And
Yes.
I was kind of, I guess, sneaking a peek at what Devon and Cornwall is all about. And I would never guess that that's what you would find in that part of the
Yeah.
UK.
And
So
if you join me, you heard me talk a lot today. You just
yeah.
wait.
And that's all we're talking about is Devon and Cornwall. So it won't be as long as tonight, I'm sure, but I'm sure you have lots to tell us about
Oh,
because
there's
you
so
were
many
on
beautiful
that trip.
areas there. Yeah. So.
Yeah. All right. Guylaine says she'll just get prepared for a longer talk on Thursday. Just make sure you bring a bigger cup, a bigger
Yeah,
glass.
have your beverage handy, maybe a
Yeah,
snack or two.
exactly. Yes. Thank you so much, Jodine,
Oh, you're
for
very welcome.
sharing with us all about the tours that Trafalgar offers in North America. And we look forward to seeing you, the others, on Thursday night as
Me
well as
too.
Dean. And then next week we are going to be talking. I'll just give you a little sneak. Next week we are going to be joined by one of our great reps with the American Queen Steamboat Company. So they do lots of tours down there in Louisiana. So looking forward to that. But stay tuned. You'll get information on that in your email. Yeah, but otherwise, have a great rest of your evening and take care. Yes, those of you that have joined us from Quebec, you need to hit the sack now. So we'll let you get to bed. But
Yeah, take a nap for Thursday.
yeah, that's right. All right, she says she will. Great. Have a good
Okay.
night, evening. A
Thanks,
good evening,
everyone.
everyone. Thank you.